Hi, in this session we will be looking into the concept of compound interest. Compound interest is nothing but interest on interest. Lot of people will get confused with this particular topic. I am here to make you easy how to handle the questions in this particular topic. Definitely from compound interest you will encounter questions on banking sectors, which is RRB, and SSC exams as well, and you will encounter questions on campus hiring companies like Wipro, IBM, TCS, and you will encounter questions in higher education like CAT, MAT, ICET. Definitely you will encounter a few questions over there. So let's get started how to handle the compound interest questions. First you have to understand what is compound interest. Interest on interest is nothing but compound interest. Guys, in simple interest, we will always calculate our interest only on our basic principal. What is compound interest? You will always calculate your interest on interest also. So that's the meaning of your compound interest. Let's take one example. If the principal is 1000 rupees, rate of interest is 10%. If he is asking for 2 years for compound interest, if it is simple interest, it's easy, right? First year 10% and second year 10%, so 10 plus 10, that's going to be what? 20%. It's a cakewalk. But where in compound interest, on first year 10% is what? 100. When you are calculating for next year, you have to calculate on this value, okay, which is 100, and you have to calculate your interest on 100 also. On 100, what is 10%, which is 10. So for second year it is 110, for first year it is 100. Okay, the total interest you will get what? 210. In simple interest you will get only 200. You are getting extra 10 rupees. That is nothing but interest on interest. That is the only basic idea. Okay, we will understand that basic idea by answering this particular question. Okay, so this is what your compound interest. While calculating the compound interest, the interest is added to the principal at the end of each period to arrive at the new principal for next period. So in other words, what we can say, the amount at the end of the first year will become the principal for the second year and so on. So this is what happens every time when you are calculating for compound interest. What is the basic formulas? You need to understand amount is always principal plus interest. Okay, guys, we don't have any specific formula to calculate compound interest. Okay, basically if you want the formula, I can give you. This is the formula to calculate amount. Amount and interest both are different entities. Okay, guys, we have seen this. Amount is equals to what? Principal plus interest. If you want to interest, that is nothing but amount minus principal. What is amount formula? The amount formula is P into 1 plus R by 100 whole power n. Okay, minus principal. So this is the formula to calculate what? Compound interest. But trust me, we never use the compound interest formula, because once you calculate your amount, if you subtract from principal, you will get your what? Your compound interest. Okay, so let's get started by understanding one conceptual example. Okay, there is 1000 rupees. Okay, for first year the rate of interest is what? 10%. So let's understand. First year it is 1000. How about your interest here? 10%, which is what? 100. What is the total interest? The total interest is going to be 100 only. What is amount now? The amount is going to be 1100. And If you talk about second year, this is where a lot of people get confused. What is the principal here? Yes, the new principal will become your amount. What is your new principal? 1100. Why it is becoming 1100? It's very simple. Once you are calculating for the second year, this is your principal, and what is your first year's interest? 100. So the total is going to be what? 1100. When you are calculating interest for the next year, so you have to calculate your principal and on your amount. So principal and amount will be on where? In your amount only, no? So the point was this, guys. If you want to calculate interest in compound interest for the second year, so my basic point is this: your amount will become your next year principal. Now you have to calculate your interest on what? 1100. On 1100, what is 10%? 110. What is the total interest? 210. What is the total amount? The total amount is going to be 1000 plus 210, which is 1210. Okay. Your basic principal is always 1000. So amount is equals to principal plus interest. Your basic principal is what? Always 1000. So 1000 plus interest is what? 210. So total is what? 1210. For the third year, what's going to be happen? Yeah. So 1210 will become your principal. On 1210, what is 10%? 121. Okay. What is the total interest here? 210 plus 121. So can I say that's going to be 331? Yes. What is your amount? 1331. So this will become your amount. So my basic point is this: in compound interest, okay, I can tell you few points here. Okay, so let's go to the slide, okay, where you have all your points. Okay, so I want to tell you this particular, this was the slide I have written there. So this will tell you the number of years, principal at the beginning of the first year, interest for the year. Okay, that's what? 10% is 100. On 110, this is going to be what? On 1100, 10% is 110. On 1210, 10% is 121. How this will become 1100? Because your amount will become your principal. So basic point. Point number 1. In compound interest, first year interest is same as your simple interest only, because compound interest means what? Interest on interest. Without the interest, how you are going to apply your compound? So the point is this: first year simple interest is same as compound interest. If you look at the simple interest chart, every year your simple interest is going to be same. But here, every year, compound interest is not same, because every year it will change. Why it is change? Because your principal will change. Okay, so that's what you need to understand. That's become your second point. How about your third point? Can I conclude? Your present year amount will become your next year principal. Yes, your present year amount will become what? Next year principal. Your present year amount will become what? Next year principal. This is how your compound interest will going on and on. Okay. How about the next point? Look at here, guys. This is very, very important point. 100 to 110. How much it got increased? 10 rupees. 110 to 121. How much it got increased? How many rupees it got increased? Okay, here 10%. 10% means what? How many rupees it got increased? 10 rupees. Here 110 to 121. How many rupees it got increased? 11. Why it is 11 rupees got increased? Because on 110, 10% is 11. So again it's going to be 10%. Why always 10% increment? Because your rate of interest is 10%. So your rate of interest is R%. Every year R% will get increased. So your fourth point is this: for 2 consecutive years, your interest will increased by R%. For 2 consecutive years, your interest will increased by R%. So this is very, very important point. And what is the other observation? Come to amount. 1100 to 1210. How much it got increased? 110. 1210 to 1331. How much it got increased? 121. Why it was increased 110? It is increased 110 because your rate of interest is 10%. On 1100, what is 10%? 110. On 1210, what is 10%? 121. So can I conclude my fifth point? For 2 consecutive years, amount will increase by R%. If it is 10%, here value is increased by 10%. If it is R%, the value will increase by what? R%. So for 2 consecutive years, your amount will increased by what? R%. Your amount will increased by what here? R%. So these are the observations you should know. Okay, so the principal remains same for the year. So the interest for any interest of the same for another year. The amount at the end of the year is the principal for the next year. The interest for different years is not same. So this is regarding your compound interest. Okay, for 2 consecutive years, interest is increased by what? R%. For 2 consecutive years, the amount is increased by what? R%. So this is in simple interest. In simple interest, every year the principal was same. Okay, here in simple interest, every year the interest is also same. But in compound interest, every year the compound interest was same. No, why it is not same? Why it is not same? Because your amount, your principal will keep changing every year. Okay, so this point you need to understand, and by using these particular questions, these particular points, we will solve so many questions in compound interest. Okay, so these points are very, very important. Let's see the question. Basic question. Find the compound interest on rupees 10,000 at 10% per annum for, you have 3 questions here. Okay, for the first year, for second year, for third year. Okay, guys, look at here. For first year, whether it is simple interest or compound interest, it is same. Okay, what is the principal? 10,000. Okay, what is the rate of interest? 10%. On 10,000, what is 10%? So can I say that's going to be directly 1,000 rupees? Yes. Okay, on principal, rate of interest is 10%. On 10,000, 10% is going to be what? 1,000 rupees. So this is your answer for your question number 1. Okay, whether it is simple or compound, it's same. Okay, how about for 2 years? So this is where you need a formula. Okay, guys, I don't have direct formula to calculate the compound interest, but I know the formula to calculate amount, which is P into 1 plus R by 100 whole power n. Okay, let me calculate the amount. What is the principal? Principal is going to be 10,000. What is the rate of interest? Which is 10%. Okay, for how many here? The time period is 2 years. Then amount is going to be 10,000 into, so 0, 0 will get cancelled. 10 1s are 10, 10 plus 1 is what? 11. 11 by 10 whole square. Then amount is going to be what? 10,000. Okay, which is what? 11 square is what? 121. What is 10 square? 100. Okay, 2 zeros will get cancelled. So then the amount will become what? 12,100. So you want your compound interest. How you are going to calculate your compound interest? Which is amount minus your principal. What is amount? 12100 minus principal. What is the principal? 10,000. Okay, so that will become 2,100. So 2,100 is going to be what your amount, 2,100 is going to be what your compound interest for a period of 2 years. Okay, guys, do you really need this whole procedure to handle the question? No. Okay, what is the other alternative? Let's see. Okay, the second method. The second method, here we go. First year. Okay, on 10,000, 10% is what? 1,000. Okay, so now can I say my new principal is nothing but 10,000 plus 1,000, which is 11,000. Why 11,000? Because if I want to calculate for the second year, my principal will change because this is a compound interest on interest. Okay, that is what our third point. Okay, so on 11,000, you have to calculate 10%. On 11,000, 10% is going to be what? 1100. So what is the interest you are getting here? 2,100. What is the interest you got here? Same interest you got here? Yes. But look at here, how many steps I am doing to answer this. But if you understand the concept properly, you can do it orally without using a pen and paper also you can do it. So this is the second way of doing it. What is the third way? Let's do with percentage. First year it is 10%. Okay, first year it is what? 10%. And second year actually 10% will be there and 10% on 10% because interest on interest, no, first year interest is what? 10%. 10% on 10%, it's going to be 1%. So total it's going to be 21%. So it's very simple. 100% is 10,000, then 21% is what? 2,100. Then 21% is what? 2,100. Lot of people will confuse this. So let me take you through another easier way. If there is a first person is X% and the consecutive year next year is Y%, the overall percentage is going to be X% plus Y% plus X Y by 100. Okay, X% plus Y% plus XY by 100. So that will give you the overall percentage. So here X value is what? 10%. Second year also it's 10%. So let's plug the values. Okay, so which is 10% plus 10% plus 10 into 10 by 100. So that's going to be 10 plus 10, 20% plus. So this will give you 1%. Together it's going to be what? 21%. Together it's going to be what? 21%. So directly you can get your answer. So now it's going to be what? Whenever for 2-year compound interest, 3-year compound interest, you can directly use this formula. You will get it out. Sir, how about 3 years? It's very simple. If you have another year which is Z, which is 10% again, so now this will become your X and this will become your Y. Just plug the values here, you can get for overall 3 years. Okay, so this is how you can use this funda and get your answer. So this is a shortcut to get compound interest easily. Okay, so this is how you will get your 21%. Now how to answer this? 100% is 10,000, then 21% equals to how much? So that will become your 2,100. So this is the fourth way of solving your particular question. Okay, which method you are liking it, please adapt that method and try to get your answer. Let's try to solve the third question, which is for the second year. Okay, for the second year is very, very important. For first year, because we don't have any formula to handle this, so you should know the concept. For the first year, it's going to be 1,000 as your interest. For second year, what happened? What is your new principal? Your new principal will become 11,000. On 11,000, what is 10%? On 11,000, 10% is going to be what? 1,100. So what is your question? For second year only for second year is what? 1,100. Or you can calculate total interest. From that, remove first year interest. Okay, that will give you only second year interest. Okay, so this is how you need to handle your questions. Okay, so this is the end of our first part of compound interest. Hope you understand the basics, how to handle the question and what is the formula to calculate amount, how to figure out interest from the amount if you know the principle. Okay, so this is what our first lecture on compound interest. On the second lecture, we will see the basics. We will see some advanced questions and practice exercise on compound interest. Thank you.